Hey, it's Jim Whitehead. I hope you're all doing well today. And yeah, I'm in sunny Florida and the temperature's probably 85 degrees. And I know most of the country, 2/3 of it, is in a kind of a very bad storm. So I certainly hope the best and that you basically gets through this. Yes, I used to be a generator company. And yeah, these would be the scary point of ensuring that if you have a generator, you have use of that generator. But that's for another topic. Anyway, today, and I'm going to do this a little different. This is another rescue sanctuary, which is amazing, and I say that about everyone I do. I think anybody that takes care of animals, they're wonderful. But anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to read the verbiage about this center and then go through the pictures that I've pulled. And these pictures are mainly from this facility. And this is the one I did before this, but it's the same thing. I used from the Rescue Center's website, their pictures. Yes, they're not generally as good as you would pull, on, and I use Leonardo AI for my images. But sometimes they're great, but they're not necessarily what you would see in real life. So that's why this one and the one before, I'm actually putting the pictures of the facility in. Now, this is called Delta Rescue Care for the Life Animal Sanctuary in Acton, California. By the way, the originator, you can see he's over my shoulder. He founded this years ago. And when I go through all the things that he does for all the animals, I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised. And like with anything, I appreciate the care that people give these wonderful animals. Everyone. Delta Rescue is a no-kill, and that's what you've seen. My trend lately is a lot of these facilities don't kill animals. And I get it. It's, and too often I see on one of the social sites where it will show a picture of a wonderful dog that's in somewhere, and it says, well, if this animal doesn't get adopted by 2 days, it's going to be euthanized. I understand that. And, it's where, of course, they only have so much room. And all the normal, if I can say normal facilities, unfortunately, have probably had an uptick in their animal population because some older folks like me, no, I have Jamie, she's not going anywhere. But they get into where they can't afford to take care of the animals, so they have to give the animal up. And I've said many times with my animal channel, Jamie will never, have it where, unless I die. I mean, I'm 76, so that could happen even before the end of this presentation. But no, she's like a daughter. I didn't have children, and not by design. That's another whole story. But bottom line, no, she doesn't get abandoned. If she gets very, very sick and she can't recover, well, that's an issue where you have to decide the best thing for the animal. Anyway, so this facility, what it does, any animal that comes to this facility will have care for life. And that's a very kind of unique, although those that I've been doing, most of them are like this now, where, hey, you come, you stay, we take wonderful care of you. This center is recognized as the largest of its kind in the world. It was founded in 1979 by Leo Grillo, Grillo, and he is an actor. I'm sure, and I should have probably looked up some of his whatever movies, but if you can see, he looks like an actor. Now, me, I don't look like an actor. Sorry about that. Anyway, here is just a little tidbit of some of the things they do. And you're going to see they actually, and I'm going to tell you about a whole bunch of things that they have. They actually have a full-time fire department on the facility. I'd never heard of that before. But they're going to just make sure that the animals have the best that they can have, and without, a fire issue that, especially in California, and that's where this is, they could have a lot of forest fires, unfortunately. Anyway, he is, rescued many, many animals abandoned in the wilderness and providing them with permanent, lifelong care. And I'm going to get into with my pictures as we progress that you're going to see all the things he has. This facility is a 115-acre mountaintop sanctuary in the high desert near Acton, California. It's a very remote setting. It provides natural protection and a peaceful habitat for residents. And they do primarily take care of cats and dogs, but they don't limit it to that. But you'll see where they have horses and so on and so forth. It houses around 1,500 animals, primarily dogs and cats, rescued from abandonment. And we see it on YouTube all the time. Somebody will find a dog or a cat or whatever that's been abandoned on the side of a road. It's just, I don't even know how you would do that, or what type of person would just say, oh, yeah, time to take out the rubbish. And I don't want to compare dogs to rubbish, but that's probably how some people might look at this. They're people. And the sign underneath it says animals are people. So I didn't make that up. This is on the facility. So anybody that comes and sees that hopefully gets the feeling that they're not kidding around. That these animals, they don't talk. But other than that, they're smart. I think they're all beautiful. I do feel they have too short a lifespan. And I always feel bad about that. And I know we're working on things like, how would you say, I can't think of the right word off the top of my head, but bottom line where they can take, I think Barbara Streisand took her two dogs and had them, it's funny, when you're talking in front of a camera, you kind of sometimes lose your train of thought. But she had her animals. Anyway, thank you for being with me, because I know you're saying, oh, this poor guy, he's getting old. Anyway, core features permanent care for life. Unlike many shelters that rehome animals, Delta Rescue does not place animals up for adoption. Now that's very, very interesting. I know it's like, if you have some animals and, you know, somebody's going to adopt them, it's very hard really to surmise, are they going to be good parents? Or are they just getting a dog because their 5-year-old wants a dog and, oh, mommy and daddy, I'll take care of it. And then he or she doesn't. And, you know, people work and everything is a lot more expensive these days. But instead, every rescued animal is guaranteed lifelong care and protection. There is Mr. Grillo again, and he's got a buddy with him, and, you know, that's his pride as much his own child as his own child. On the left, you see the best little cat house in Acton. You know, little play on words there, but certainly very, very nice for the cats. This care for life philosophy means animals live out their full natural lives in a safe, loving environment. Thoughtfully designed housing. Dogs live in a large outdoor yards with insulated straw bale houses and wading pools to help regulate temperatures in the hot summers and the cold winters. You know, and back to the having a fire department on site is pretty amazing. But there's a show that my wife and I are watching. It's called Fire Country, and it's about California Fire. And yes, it's a show, but the recognition, unfortunately, especially when they get into, you know, California gets into these droughts, they have a lot of fires. And, you know, unfortunately, a year ago, I think they lost 10,000 homes because of the Santa Ana winds and everything being very dry. And, you know, that's where this facility is going to say, no way, we're a good distance away from things that can harm, but we also have, just to be safe, we have a full-time fire department. That's amazing. That is amazing. Cats enjoy indoor-outdoor houses with suspended walkways and condos that let them safely enjoy fresh air and sunshine. Advanced on-site medical care. Now, there's kind of a picture of them having a wonderful, happy day, and this is a real picture, and they don't really use those, you know, on the left and the right, the pens, unless they should be in there. They maybe need to have rest or medicine or medical care. But anyway, other than that, the animals say, "Hey, I'm gonna be out here. I have towels. It's like they're at the beach, and it's great." And of course, they have wonderful people that are there. And you know, I would sincerely doubt that any of them would say, if you went up to one of the helpers there and said, "Why are you here?" "Well, you know, it's the only job I could find." No, I don't believe that would be the case. I think they would say, "Because I love animals." And most people wouldn't want to say, "This is the only job I could find, and I would like to do something else, but this is the only job I could find." I am sure that these folks don't get paid billions of dollars, so they're saying, I have to survive and have food and take care of my family, but this is the best job in the world. Now, as I just mentioned, they have 2 state-of-the-art veterinarian hospitals on the sanctuary. And this is kind of a rough, picture of the facility. And again, it's not crowded. It's very functional. As I mentioned earlier, it's got 155 acres, and this isn't where planes are flying over. It's just a wonderful animal facility. Anyway, as I said, they have 2 hospitals on the sanctuary grounds with full-time. Now listen to that: full-time medical staff. Capabilities include routine healthcare, advanced treatments, diagnostics, and this is the first that I have seen, hospice care. Now, for those who don't know what hospice care is, it's kind of a definition of where I or anybody in any situation that gets into where unfortunately, and there's a 6-month point, if they said, oh, Jim's dying, and we're going to put him into hospice care. Certainly not exciting. And the rule, not with this hospice care, but with humans, is you are kind of where you're within 6 months of passing. So that just kind of, puts that out a little bit. The sanctuary has strong medical integration, so animals receive care immediately and continuously without off-site transfers. Obviously the animals wouldn't understand if all of a sudden they're put in a car and they're taken somewhere, even though they would say they're sick. So they're saying, no. The animal comes here, the animal stays here, and we take care of the animal for its life. Now, here's just a good example, and we can all talk how wonderful things are, but look at all the food, and I can tell, I'm not sure what food that is off the top of my hair, a premium. Anyway, bottom line, it's not cheap. And with 1,500 mouths to feed, this is probably just one little point of bringing all the food in. And I can guess that this is just a base of food with other things that's good and that any of the animals would really like. Okay, the specialized care. Many residents arrive abandoned, injured, or ill. Delta Rescue provides individualized treatment. There you can see a nice kitty is in the hospital and is being nursed back to health. And they have rehab and rehabilitation for all the animals. Long-term management of chronic conditions, pain, and geriatric needs is a sanctuary priority. Hey, maybe I'll go there when I really have the real problem. Now, what you're seeing here, that is where they are x-raying. That's an x-ray plate down in between the horse's 2 front legs, and it is x-raying to see what's going on. And horses are wonderful. And yeah, they have to be taken care of, especially their hoofs. You occasionally will see somebody somebody that hasn't been taking care of their horse have an unbelievable, odd-looking, out-of-control hoof. And it has trouble walking because of that. It's sometimes ingrown, as we would say. So they do everything to make sure the horse is the best it can be in this case. Also, security, they have 24/7 guards that are patrolling the facility to protect animals and infrastructure. Perimeter fencing and controlled access ensure residents are safe from outside threats. Public access is very limited, with tours typically restricted to members and supporters to minimize stress on the animals. I've read where sometimes somebody that wants to make money, they will do a roadside zoo. And they'll get some animals and whatever, and they charge people to come in, and sometimes it's called a petting zoo, whatever. But no, this is not that. This is an animal. We take care of everything, and they will have the best life they can have. And of course, with the caregivers being there every day, admittedly, if yes, one did leave related to, a problem, and they go there, admittedly at first they might miss the person, but over time, with the love and caring, they would do very, very well. Anyway, this is again uncompromising, no kill. The sanctuary never euthanizes for space, behavior, or health issues, except in cases of where they are suffering, where unfortunately they recognize that they unfortunately have to take care of this animal that is in such pain, sick, and they can't fix that. So again, the animal doesn't have to suffer. This contrasts with many traditional animal shelters that may euthanize pets for lack of space or resources. I'm not picking on, a facility that, again, has, let's say, 24 cages, and they can house 24 animals. And if people don't adopt an animal, and they will have the clock is ticking. And, what does happen, and this is kind of a word to anybody that wants to adopt an animal, you go to a rescue center, and generally speaking, most older animals in these rescue centers, they get overlooked all the time. People want to go in and get puppies and 2-year-olds and so on and so forth. And I admit, when I lost my Shiny, who unfortunately got hit by a car in 2013, we did get Jamie as a puppy in 2014. But what would happen today is, if I was to get another pet, when Jamie unfortunately is not going to be able to stay here life-wise, I would consider adopting a senior. I'm a senior, they're a senior, and they deserve the best also. Rescue focus. Delta Rescue uniquely focuses on animals abandoned in wilderness areas, a niche more other rescue centers do not cover. Founder Leo Grillo's early work included locating and rescuing feral cats, dogs, and other animals left to die. Now, here's a wonderful picture, and you've seen these on YouTube. When an animal gets where, let's say, they can't use their back legs anymore or front legs, they build them a cart / wheelchair that allows, when you think of wheelchair, you think they're just sitting in a wheelchair. These animals, they're so, how would you say, they bounce back. If they can get up and walk and move, they're good. And that's exactly what you're seeing here. This poor, I'm not even sure the type of dog, but he or she got to where they couldn't walk. So they said, okay, we're going to build you a little cart. Unbelievable. Okay, medical advancement. The sanctuary has been involved in pioneering animal medical approaches, including collaborations that helped advance animal kidney dialysis treatments. You probably have never heard of that before, in the sense that, yeah, plenty of adults, we all don't want it to happen, but we have kidney failure. And by the way, one little factoid, the good news is you can live on 1/8 of one kidney. Now we have two. We have two kidneys. But they're able to, have dialysis, which I've never heard of that either. So you can imagine what is neat about this. Now, advocacy and awareness. Delta Rescue raises awareness about the plight of abandoned animals through videos, updates, and storytelling. Now, they don't know I'm doing this presentation. And, I know somebody said, well, did you get permission to do this? No. But my channel, Animal Channel, is in essence positive, because I'm like to be a positive person. So if I found a center somewhere, wherever, that was mean and terrible, I wouldn't do a presentation on it. So if you see, and this is kind of my commitment to you, if you see whatever my presentation, it's generally going to be happy, good, personifying the best and wonderful attributes that these facilities have. And very rarely do I do a presentation, and I did one on a very, very smart horse back in the 1700s. And the owner took this horse around to circuses and so on and so forth. I wouldn't agree with that at all. But what happened, he ended up leaving, I think it was England, and went to France or somewhere. And the people, because the animal was so smart, thought it was like witchcraft. And they acted accordingly as to what they would do with witches. So, and I had to apologize because it was interesting, but then sad. And I don't want to tell sad stories. I really don't. So, anyway, they educate about responsible pet ownership and the importance of human treatment. Donor-supported independent. The organization is a 501c3 nonprofit financed entirely through donor support. It receives no government funding. And unfortunately, if there was anything in the federal government in the last year, if it was anything for animals, it's certainly, and I'm not turning this into a political discussion, but they probably would say, well, I don't think we're going to spend money on animal welfare. And I think the neatest thing is most of these facilities, it's what they do. They have, donors and people that just say, I love this place and I'm going to donate money. There you see another animal that's saying, hey, I got my toy and I'm out just having a lot of fun this afternoon. Donor programs include estate planning. And again, I know if I didn't say this was an animal facility, you would say, this sounds just like adults, a human activity. Anyway, they have the estate planning, as I said, and legacy gifts that help sustain long-term operations. Now, getting into, and there's 3 of the cats, a little baby on the left and 2 beautiful cats on the right. What you get into, there's, as you see, you get the spectrum of the type of animals and the age. There you go. We went from a youngster to a much older, like me, that unfortunately, they, especially since animals don't live very long. And that is the saddest thing that I feel every day, that, they're wonderful, 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 but they don't live long enough. And by the way, the word I was trying to remember at the beginning is cloning. And Barbara Streisand cloned her 2 dogs. And, that I know this is very controversial, but I would, if I could ever afford it, I would definitely, if Jamie was getting, well, she will unfortunately get too close to end of life, I would clone her in a minute. And you'd say, well, obviously it's not going to be the exact same animal, because Jamie being 11, she has learned 11 years of us being with her, loving her, teaching her. So if we cloned Jamie, it'd be like starting all over again. I know it's a tough one. I don't want to have where people go, oh, I think that was unfair and stupid to say, but it is happening. And it will probably get a little bit better down the road. Anyway, what's great about this facility, and kind of ending up here, this is a loving sanctuary for animals abandoned in life-threatening conditions. No kill, care for life pledge. In other words, they live there as long as they can. I don't want to say want to, but once they're there and they have such great life and people that love them, they themselves would say, I love it here. Anyway, so these animals are never rehomed or euthanized, simply for space. On-site advanced veterinarian care and specialized hospice treatments. I used to be in healthcare before I went and became a generator company, and I was a respiratory therapist. And, I had to deal with death and dying every day. And it was, I like to help people. And that's what you'd say I was in healthcare. And now, basically, my expectations is I'm too old to be in the hospital setting for care, but I can certainly help and take care of animals. And part of it is my telling you all these stories, because you'd say, wow, I never knew this. And by giving the name of the facility, the location, if you said, I've wanted to donate, and I'm sure if you contacted Delta and said, I'd like to become a sponsor, they wouldn't say, well, it's $1 billion, or don't bother. They probably say, whatever you want to afford. And it's funny, a lot of times when I go through these presentations, it comes to me of what some things that I should do. And I don't say things I know I'm not going to do, but I think I'm going to contact this facility and say, hey, I did a presentation. But beyond that, and the reason I'd be calling mainly would be to say, I'd like to pitch in. Yeah, I'm in Florida, they're in California, so it isn't that I'm going to be going there, to work there. But I would if I could. And, and I'm almost done here, but the thing that I had mentioned, because again, I've done about 5 or 6 of these, and I go down where I do things that I like to do, hopefully good stories, good happy stories. And I kind of thought, and this is what's neat about me doing this and learning things I didn't know. Even though I'm an animal lover, it doesn't mean you know a lot about animals. But what I found is every time I do a search, and yes, I use AI, put out some suggestions of some very unique rescue facilities, centers. And, it will detail this one was, Delta, Acton, California, and you read a little bit about it. And if it was like, small 24 animal facility, we have cages and that's it. No, I wouldn't do that for you, really. What's so exciting about that in a way? Because damn well you're going to be seeing, and I see it on, well, I won't say the social network that I look at here and there, but a lady, and they try, but they put up a picture of an animal, and they'll say, this is Rex, and Rex will be euthanized in 3 days if somebody doesn't adopt him. Now, that is not good. But again, if they only have a limited space availability, they've got to do something. But to be honest with you, if somebody said, hey, Jim, why don't you start an animal facility? It wouldn't be where I'd say, well, I've got a small little space and I can take care of 4 animals. No. You're not doing anything that's a service to animals. This type of facility is. Anyway, I want to thank you for being here. And again, this is Phoenix Animal, part of All Power Group, which actually was my generator company. I know sometimes you use kind of combine things into, new things. But anyway, thank you very much for being here. And, I always appreciate your comments, good or bad, because if no one ever comments on anything, you're going to go, I guess I'm doing okay. So you really want people to say, gee, you could have done this, you should have done that, this part of what you did was good, because again, that's the only way we get better. And that would be, I think, almost any YouTube channel, unless it's political. And political is just, it's literally taking all the bandwidth away from all of us generally. Because, you're going to see, unfortunately, something happening due to our political point in, let's say, Minnesota. You would maybe look at that instead of Jim's Animal Channel. But and I did do a little here and there when I was doing what they call politics in the middle. Because I look at politics as being good and bad. Not all bad, not all good. Different times, different administrations can be good or not very good. And I'm not going to get into anything like that. All I'm going to say is I wish you the best of everything. and stay safe and carry your identification. My wife, and again, not to keep going, my wife is from Cuba. She's been here since 1968. Yes, she isn't an American citizen. But what is happening is that, obviously if somebody came to her and said, because she doesn't look anything, but I mean, you know what I mean? And if she said, no, yes, I'm from Cuba, but I came here in 1968, they'd be like, yeah, you probably didn't, you probably just got here and, we're going to take you into custody. That's, the scary part of what's happening now. So, God bless everybody. Be safe. And thank you so much for being here. And this is, oh boy, it's 40 minutes. And I don't mean to do it for 40 minutes, but thank you very much. Take care. Be well. Stay safe.